Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Yeah, it's Raph with Living Kinetics doing another massage video here. And you might notice a bit of a different face on camera. I would like to introduce everybody to Mr. Tango here, otherwise known as Tango Fett, or Tango Unchained, or Tangerang, or the Wu Tango. That's personally my favorite one right there, actually. Unfortunately, we've had some huge changes here in the household, in the King household, and there's a reason that I haven't really been posting videos or anything like that. There's just been so much going on with like literally everything, like so many moving pieces, and our lives have just been just crazy. So I do apologize for the break and getting you some education here, but we're back and we're golden and we're ready to do this. Of course, at this time, I have to mention that, my poor Audie Bear passed away, and so she's not going to be in our videos anymore, unfortunately. But I love her dearly, and she's always going to be remembered, and, it's just too much, man. So let's get into some Shiatsu today. Yeah, we're talking Shiatsu. Now, Shiatsu, you've probably seen this before, because it's a rather popular style of massage. You've probably seen it in kind of like a spa setting, when I say spa setting, like you really got to push home like the bamboo aesthetic, right? Like it's very like Asian inspired spa. You'll probably see something like this there. If you've heard of acupressure or acupuncture before, this is actually a very close cousin to those two practices. So basically, they all have the same framework that they're working off of, right? There are meridians that go throughout the body. There's different points throughout the body that when stimulated, will create a different effect somewhere within you, right? Whether it's regulating digestion or muscle soreness or aiding the health of the eyes or something like that, right? Traditional Chinese medicine is a whole practice within itself. And I don't mean to do it any injustice with this very short video that we're doing, but we're going to have to grossly oversimplify certain parts of it just to get through what we're doing today. So, acupuncture, acupressure, these are focused on points along meridians. Well, Shiatsu is more focused on the meridian versus the point. With Shiatsu, you're basically tracing these meridians, these lines out over the body, which is in a sense really cool because you basically already have a formula for your very general full body Shiatsu massage. For some people who like to get very creative with massage, they might feel boxed in by this, but you really shouldn't because there's still a lot of leeway, a lot of slack within the style. So you can kind of switch it up and make it your own. Absolutely. What I like about Shiatsu massage and what makes it different from other styles of massage is at least how I was trained, because I'm sure there are tons of different styles of Shiatsu, right? Now, how I was trained is we don't use any lotions. It's all dry application. And everyone's going to stay clothed, right? Well, normally you would have like the client disrobe for the session if you're doing like a full body Swedish massage, right? But Shiatsu, that's not normally the case. I'm sure you can be disrobed. Like I put Shiatsu techniques into my full body Swedish massage all the time, right? So it's not necessarily saying you have to be fully clothed, but it's normally how it's practiced. And what I find really interesting about Shiatsu when it comes to the body mechanics is it's more of a rocking type of technique, right? Like you're really using your whole body. Now, you do this in massage anyways. Like if you're not using your whole body when you massage, like if your hand gets further away from you when you are massaging, then you're using your arm, you're not really using your body. Now, everyone's guilty of this because sometimes it's just how you flow, right? But with Shiatsu, there is a huge demand for you to use your whole body. In fact, you're even getting your pelvis into it, right? Like you really want to generate all the force as one motion, as like a wave, basically, versus putting all that strain on your arms. The one part that I don't like about the body mechanics when it comes to Shiatsu, and this was really confusing as a massage student at the time. I've come to understand it more and even change this aspect of it so I can utilize Shiatsu more. But in Shiatsu, it's not uncommon to use your thumbs as the main applicator of pressure, right? So your thumb will be out like this, fingers splayed like this, and you're basically As you rock forward, you're moving a little bit further down the back, down that Seiki Seisen, right? Down that bladder meridian right there. You're moving down that aspect and just tracing it out. Now that's really cool because it's a kneading type of aspect, right? Like we see cats do this, and oftentimes we'll use the feline to kind of teach the massage student about how to like move like a cat, like, especially like a big cat, right? You have your hands on the body, and as you're going to be doing this, you have your hands played, and you're placing all the pressure on your thumb right there. This was confusing as a massage student because literally everything they had said up until this point was, do not use your thumbs readily. Like, you can use your thumbs, right? Of course, if you're using like some petrissage or something like that, but you should not work with your thumb. It was drilled into us. And then we get into a modality where that's all you're basically using is thumbs, palms, and maybe some fists sometimes, but a lot of thumbs, right? So getting to that point in the education was really tough for me because we hadn't conditioned that way. We had conditioned the exact opposite way, actually. And so then we had this teacher here who was like, no, you're going to, like, you have to do this way. And the way she taught it, we were always on the floor. Like you lay out some padding and some blankets and stuff like that. And so you're on your knees a lot too for this style of shiatsu, which is another issue that I have because the knee isn't necessarily meant to, when it's bent and you're placing pressure directly on the knee, like the patella there, it's not necessarily meant to take pressure like that. Particularly when you start looking at folks who have worked a lot of years in their lives, it's very, very easy for them to have very rugged knees, right? Like they've been beat up the entire time that they've been working. They weren't supposed to be used that way. Now, I'm not saying that you can't take a knee in a massage, as you're working on the neck or something like that, or, take a knee to work on the feet. Certainly, like that's totally appropriate. But when you're spending the full hour on your knees, like even if you are on some padding, that can be really hard for people. But the beautiful thing about that is when you start looking at alternatives to some of these minor points, right? The thumb usage, the knee usage, it can be changed. Like I do all my shiatsu on a table. Like I'm not going to get down on the ground. I know some people like to do that, but I'm not going to do that. Like I'm going to do everything on a table because that's how I train. That's how I consistently train. So really the body mechanics aren't going to change that much for me. In fact, it might be a little refreshing to just switch it up just a little bit, right? But it's not going to be this just drastic change from working on a table to being on the floor or something like that. So it's going to feel more comfortable for me in that sense. Now, when it comes to the thumbs, how I view the thumb joint down here, it's actually a rather weak joint compared to many other joints in the body. So we have to take care of it. Like there is undoubtedly, like, you have to, like you can't get around it, right? But how does that justify the shiatsu movement? Let me back up a little bit first. So right now, if you take your hands and you shake them out and you let them drop to your side, it'll probably naturally come out something like this. Now this is the furthest your thumb should be away from the rest of your hand as you're using it. Because the further we get away from here, we start to cause a decline in structural integrity. Now, how can other modalities get away with it? Like, how would they teach this and it'd be okay? Well, with the fingers splayed out like that, and if you have a nice straight arm as you go into it, and you're with that straightness that you're kind of taking out the joint in a sense, so you're not necessarily placing so much stress on it because you have that straight limb, right? But at the same time, like, I just don't like it. Like, I respect that some people can use their thumbs like that all day, every day for years. I'm not okay with it. Even if everything is straightened out and you have good support behind it, like that has to happen every time. That can't just be part of the time. It has to happen every time you do a technique in shiatsu. So for me, I took the thumbs out, or I kept my thumbs very close as I did it, and I used more fingertips, more palms, more fists, and I still got a really, really good shiatsu session out of it. Like, you don't have to stick to the total traditional aspect of these modalities if it don't work for you. So for me, learning shiatsu really benefited me in a couple of different ways. So one, when you get into massage school, it's all about Swedish massage at first. So you are getting fully disrobed. Like when I went to school, they told you are going to get fully disrobed under the sheet, period, right? Because you have to let the other person practice with a fully disrobed body. And there's nothing weird about that. Like, you gotta get your feet wet sometime. Like, it has to happen. But like I said, Shiatsu was a little later in the education, in the courses there. So people get really used to and really comfortable working with disrobed bodies. What they start to lose out on is working with somebody who is fully clothed, right? Because then you have like, you might take the belt off, right? But there's other parts of the pant that might be very tough as you work over it. Clothing might not always give the way you think it's going to give, or it might not be as sturdy as you think. You know, think like a really rough cotton versus like something kind of silky, right? Like one's going to definitely catch your grip and you're going to be able to push down to the body, while the other one might seem kind of like, might slip and slide a little bit. Super important that you work with somebody who is fully clothed though, and you get really, really comfortable with it, because there are going to be people out there who either can't get disrobed or just don't want to. And that's totally fine, right? It might take way too long for this person to get undressed and then redressed. And considering that a lot of massage therapists out there work in spas, you have like what, 15 seconds to get everything switched over. Like you cannot be expending this kind of time for somebody. You can still do really good techniques with while they're clothed, and you have to practice those beforehand. You don't want to be learning as you go on the job. You want it done now. Or people who just don't want to. Right? There are people who want to be touched, who want massage, but at the end of the day, they might not feel comfortable being disrobed around you, and that's totally fine. We're not here to judge anybody. We're not here to put pressure on anybody. Massage is supposed to be a beautiful thing that allows you to relax and open up, and it shouldn't come down to the client has to tailor themselves to my technique. No, that might happen sometimes, but overall, you should be tailoring yourself to the client to make sure that they have plenty of space held for them, plenty of love held for them. I didn't really go over the history of Shiatsu massage. Very briefly, Shiatsu resides in Japan. It came from China, right? These two Eastern cultures here have a very big affinity for chi or ki, right? This like universal energy that resides in everything. In fact, I'm sure you've heard of the practice Reiki, right? Rei meaning universal, ki energy, right? Universal energy. So there's this concept between these two cultures, and as the diffusion happened between them, well, we kind of came up with these beautiful practices of Qigong and Reiki, very similar. Acupressure, acupuncture, and Shiatsu, again, very similar. There's just minor differences between these. And that happened, like thousands of years ago. And in that time too, we had a lot of diffusion into India, into the other Asiatic cultures, where we had these different concepts come up. And really, I want to do a full video on Ayurvedic medicine and other styles of medicine that we'll see come out of India. For me personally in my education, like that was something we really, really slept on. It was like when you got into your hydrotherapy class, you might pour oil on somebody's forehead or something like that. Like we really did not explore what Ayurvedic medicine was. So I want to do a video about that sometime. We do have some other modalities that I want to catch up on, some lymphatic massage and some cranial and all sorts of other fun stuff that I want to get into. So we'll eventually get around to it. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. It feels so good to be back with you. So hang out. We're going to have more videos. We're going to have more tango. We're going to have more massage stuff. Oh, it's going to be so good. And I can't wait to see you there. Love you guys so much. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day.